In 1976, Glass Castle was formed. Just two young men with aspirations to become rich and famous through the medium of song. The then teenage Milk Castle and Syd Glass commenced practising at Syd's father's council house on a run-down housing estate in the North London suburbs of St. Albans. In the main, Milk played acoustic guitar and constructed the musical basis for most of the songs, and Syd helped to refine the lyrics and melody via his singing and playing a Swiss harmonica, as well as improvising drums by vehemently bashing the sides of his father's gas fire. Over the years, the duo evolved and developed their own Glass Castle musical style, aided by the introduction to their songs of electronic effects and further instruments, and even later, computer software. The group officially split in 2004, although very little new material was either written or recorded after the start of the new millennium. Today, both members of the group are virtual recluses, and Milk Castle particularly so. In spite of this, early in 2016, Syd announced he was going to write, produce and record a short tribute piece to commemorate the 40 years since the band's inception. Against all odds, and by writing, playing and singing as a lone artist, but under the banner of Glass Castle, this has now been completed, in the shape of a new song here called Clouds Rolling Over Again. But, as Syd explains, it was far from easy without the brilliance of Milk Castle's preeminent guitar playing and song construction talent.
Well, what I wanted to do was create a song to mark the 40th anniversary of the inception of Glass Castle. And I wanted that song to sound as much like those early songs that Milk created and wrote in the mid to late 70s, such as Floating on a Cloud, Girl, Train, those sort of songs. So I set about thinking, right, okay, it's going to have to be a simple song, only a handful of chords, fairly short, fairly symmetrical as a song goes. In other words, very straightforward and, has a layout that's very simple but attractive. So lyrics, harmonica, of course, was needed. I had to sort of set about, right, let's get the song structure sorted first. So what I did, I started on the keyboard piano, and I decided that the song should be in the key of C. So we started off with this one. See the clouds rolling over again. And it goes from C, and we go to A7, and then back straight into A major. Then we go up to F. Na, 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 na. And it goes to D major. Amazing colours, and she sounds so... G7, and then back to C. Now what we could have done actually is go from F to D major, and F to D major again, and we could have gone to D minor instead of the G7 and back to C. But I decided that it would be more attractive to do actually play the G7 and go from F to D major, F to D major, and then G7 back to C. And that's the basic song structure of Clouds Rolling Over, brackets, again, brackets. So I then had a basic structure for the song and then had to formulate some lyrics. So I thought, what better thing to do than try and embrace some of the previous Castle song titles into these lyrics. And that's what, in the main, I did. Not exclusively, but in the main.
Did you miss Milk's guitar playing?
Milk was sorely missed, because where I had a problem, Milk was the Mark Knopfler of Glass Castle. There's no doubt about that. He was also, a Brian Wilson type of writer, very, very good writer. He brought those two skills together with an acoustic guitar, either a 6-string or a 12-string, and you ended up with the Castle sound that that you got in those days. And I just basically tried to accompany with voice, gas fire as drums, and a harmonica.
Was your construction of the song a challenge?
Yeah, it was a challenge. It was a big challenge, because where I really came unstuck with this song was the guitar. Okay, I got the chords sorted out and the lyrics fairly okay. The harmonica was no problem. That's the same harmonica that was used in Colours Reprise 2003 or 4 when we split up officially. That was no problem. The drums I had no gas fire. So the drums had to be synthetically reproduced using a digital audio workstation, which is DAW, or a DAW, which was all part of a MIDI, musical instrument digital interface, which I had to recreate that. Now, on the actual song, the final version of this song, you can't hear much piano, you can't hear many drums, but they're there just in the background. The things that come forward is the guitar, and the challenge, to answer your question, is the guitar playing. Because what I had to do, I've got no guitar, I can't play the guitar, but Milk can, but we didn't have the resources of Milk available to us. So what we did, or what I did, was I learnt these chords that I produced or developed on the piano with the help of tuition from the internet, and there's a lot on there now. I managed to play the handful of chords, 5 or 6 chords, by learning the chords on strings sort of artificially. Once I'd learnt that, I realised that there's no way I could play that live and change the chords at all. It would be ridiculous. So I had to program those into the DAW. So I would have the C, A7, D7, A major, and everything all programmed in. And as you'll see, the chords were then readily available to me. So the main challenge was actually setting those chords up and having them ready. Then choosing the acoustic element of the DAW to play the main lead, which is what Milk would have done. And then I added a little bit of a plinky plonk electric guitar behind that, which you can barely hear also, playing the same chords but just as single notes virtually, but in the chords in harmony with the song. That was the main challenge. That was the main challenge of the song, and bringing it all together. After that, once that was put down, I was able to then utilize various other pieces of software to multi-track all the different channels. There in fact is 2 song audios on there, one with slight echo and reverb, barely detectable in the final version, but I could layer them. There was 11 tracks in total in the final production, and then I had to run them through a sound processor so that they would be synthetically stereo produced, and a few other little bits and pieces as well to make it sound a little bit more polished. And I think I did it in about 8 or 9 takes. I think it was take 9 was the actual final one, and after that I did an instrumental without the vocal, which stands alone separately. So that's basically how it was done. So this is the DAW, or digital audio workstation. It's a part of a MIDI system, which is a musical instrument digital interface. I've selected the chords. We can do this on an electric guitar or an acoustic guitar. Here's the electric and here's the acoustic. We've chosen the acoustic for obvious reasons, for castle sound, for what Milk would have done. So I've chosen the chords and set these up on the DAW, these being C, A major, and then we go to F and D major, F back to F and D major again, that G7th,
a G7 chord, back to C. So there you have the run through. See the clouds rolling over again. So that's the run through of that, and that's how it works. Now with the electric, we just added just a few. That's how it goes in the song, but you can't hear it so much because it's something which never really came forward in early Castle songs at all. Only on an after mix in the 80s and even the 90s. So we left that alone. It's just the odd notes that you hear in the background with again the same chords. C, A major to F, F to D major to G7, and then C. Now those are the basic chords for the song Clouds Rolling Over Again. On top of that we used that was all plugged into another interface unit on the computer, on two computers, each requiring 15 gigabytes of RAM, and then we had to mix them in with a bass synthesizer, which I used to sound like a bass guitar, which I've done on many other songs, Castle songs, and we've also used the harmonica as well on top of that, and then we run it through another piece of software which then puts the tracks together, and then we run it through yet another piece of software which adds the sound effects of reverb, synthetic stereo channeling, and other things as well. Well, it's difficult to get the root note on the 5th string in a DAW or a MIDI situation, but I suppose that would do, that song. It's going to take someone like Justin Hayward or Rick Wakeman or Paul McCartney to turn it into a truly spectacular song.